Melbourne's tram system is the largest in the world. With about 250 kilometres of track, it serves many urban areas and a few outer suburban areas. However, despite being the biggest, it doesn't cover all of Melbourne. Many outer suburbs and other urban areas do not have a tram line, leaving commuters using trains or bus services which are not as regular and frequent. For many years, there have been discussions on extending Melbourne's tram network that date back to the 1920s. In 1923, the Melbourne Metropolitan Tramways Board made a map on proposed tram extensions. However, only 1 to 7 of the extensions have been built. A couple of years ago, I made a video about many tram extensions in Melbourne that could be built. Looking at the comments from the video, I noticed many people talking about other tram extensions, and I appreciate the feedback you guys have given me. So today, I'm going to cover even more Melbourne tram extensions, show you where they will extend to, what is going to be built, the challenges of building tram lines, and the reason for extending the tram line. Most extensions will be in some official and old documentation, including the 1923 map. But I will also make up some tram lines, as I feel that many other areas in Melbourne deserve trams too. So anyways, let's begin. Our first extension is the Elsternwick to East Brighton extension. In my previous video, I talked about how the Route 64 line should be extended from East Brighton to Moorabbin station. Well, according to the 1923 map, there was an extension proposed for the Route 67 tram to continue along the Nepean Highway. The line continues on the median strip, goes under the Sandringham line and connects up with the Route 64 tram at East Brighton. It would serve many large shops, serve Hurlingham Park and its leisure facilities, potentially provide connections at Vale station, and could provide an alternative transport in case a disruption happens. An obvious challenge are the roads. There's a median strip, but there are some sections where the median strip is thin and there is just road. It wouldn't hurt to remove a car lane in the middle and build tram tracks in its place. The second is a tram line that goes from North Brighton to Oakley. According to the 1923 map, it would start at the end of Bay Street, cross over the Sandringham line, make a left turn onto Milroy Street, then make a right turn and continue along North Road, passing the Frankston line and terminating at Warrigal Road. It would serve many shops alongside the line, including the North Brighton shops, serve multiple parks, provide connections to North Brighton and Ormond stations, and provide an easy commute to the coast. With challenges, obviously building on roads is one of them, but at North Brighton, the tram line passes over a level crossing, which might serve as a bottleneck. Since the Victorian government announced the level crossing removal project, level crossings are pretty much banned from being constructed, insisting on elaborate grade separation. This means there will need to be an elevated railway built and a new train station at North Brighton, therefore separating the tram from crossing the train line. Also, at Warrigal Road, there are some shops and not really much else. I would personally extend it further along North Road until it reaches Monash University. It would somewhat serve Monash University and provide a connection with Huntingdale Station. In my previous video, I talked about a trackless tram route going from Caulfield to Chadstone, Monash and Rowville. It may connect up with that tram at Clayton if such a tram line was actually constructed. In the 1923 map, there is also another tram extension branching off from the Nepean Highway. Going along Hampton Street, it heads straight to Sandringham Beach. It would serve many shops and towns, provide connections with Hampton Station, and provide an alternative transport in case the Sandringham train is cancelled. One challenge is obviously crossing over the level crossing at Hampton Station, so grade separation in the form of a railway bridge and New Hampton Station would need to be built again. Before I show you the next extension, I would like to show you two maps to give you some context. Here is a hand-drawn map of Melbourne's tram network, which resembles the Yarra Trams map from the 2000s, but it also contains some extensions, like an extension to Sandringham, Doncaster and Reservoir Station. It is not mine, I found it many years ago in 2017 on the Yarra Trams Twitter account and saved it. I just thought I might show you. Here's another map showing Melbourne's tram system fully expanded. It's not an official map, but it was created by Adam Mattison Maps, a local mapmaker who creates stylized maps of Melbourne. Looking closely, there are tram lines that bear some resemblance to the 1923 map. In the drawing, there is an extension of the Route 64 tram to Southland Shopping Centre. The tram line would continue further along Nepean Highway until it reaches the destination. It would serve multiple parks and would serve as an alternative transport option in case there is a disruption with trains. It could also cater for many short-distance commuters as they can simply walk to their nearby tram stop without walking all the way to the nearest train station. One major challenge is the location of the Termini. On the road, there is a massive overpass which is part of the shopping centre. Underneath to the side, there is also a separate road for buses. Here, it wouldn't be much of a problem for the trams to fit underneath, but where will the tram stop go? Well, building the tram stop underneath would be preferable as it could provide shade. The tram stop could be built in the middle of the road, and it wouldn't really hurt to reconstruct the area and build a 2-track tram stop in its place. And since it is underneath the entrance, it would be a direct path to the shopping centre without any hassles. Now, there is a train station at Southland, but once you exit the station, you have to trudge through a car park jungle to get to the entrance. On the 1923 map, there is another proposed line that branches off Nepean Highway southward. It's not quite clear where it terminates, but I would suggest that the line ends at Black Rock, as indicated on the Adam Battison map. The line travels down Cummins Road and Bluff Road, passing several schools, parks, towns, and a hospital. It would serve the town of Black Rock and would help people get to school while also improving connections to several bus routes. One challenge is building the line along the road, as well as constructing tram stops. Melbourne's tram network has been criticised for breaching disability discrimination laws, as many of its basic tram stops are inaccessible to people using wheelchairs. One way to address this issue is building raised, road-accessible platforms, similar to those used on Route 96. On the 1923 map, another proposed line goes along South Road, from Brighton Beach to Morrabbin Station. Apart from serving some shops and serving connections with 2 train lines, the line also passes 2 schools, which could make commuting to school much easier in the short term. When it comes to building tram tracks, there is a median strip along the road, and some sections of it are quite wide. During my teens, I came across another map showing proposed tram extensions in the south. At the bottom, the line along South Road extends further to Warrigal Road, terminating at a large intersection surrounded by houses, a park, a power station, and several automobile shops, although the major shops are quite a walk away. Personally, I would extend the tram line further until it reaches Dingley Village. It will follow the Dingley bypass, turn right into Boundary Road, and turn left onto Centre Dandenong Road, continuing until it reaches Keysborough. This tram line would serve 4 major shopping areas, provide easy access to a hospital and a university, and would make commuting much easier for the people of Dingley. There aren't many challenges for this line, although some sections of track would need to be laid on the median strip and others on the road. In my previous video, I mentioned that median strips have trees, and I proposed building the tramway around them and planting new trees. However, someone pointed out that this could be harmful to both the trees and the tracks, as the tree roots could be trapped and might grow out of the ground to absorb water, potentially damaging the track. So for some tram extensions, including this one, some trees could be removed or relocated to another place. On the 1923 map, there is yet another line going from Nepean Highway to Bentleigh East. This would serve many long strips of shops and provide connections to Bentleigh Station. I would extend it further until it reaches Oakley South at Huntingdale Road, as it would serve more people, especially those going to and from Moorabbin Hospital. In my previous video, I talked about tram extensions to Ashburton, Darling Station, and East Malvern. On one of the maps I came across, there was another proposed line branching from Gardiner, running along Malvern Road, turning right onto Murrumbeena Road, and terminating at Moorabbin. This might seem a bit overkill, but it would serve several schools, connect with Murrumbeena Station, and potentially connect with Route 653 trams if those tram lines were extended. Regarding a tram extension from Glen Iris to Ashburton, on the Yarra Tram's map drawing, it continues beyond Ashburton to Glen Waverley. This extension would go along High Street Road, passing Ashwood and Mount Waverley. It would serve many nearby schools and could act as a substitute for the Glen Waverley train line during disruptions. One challenge is the location of the terminus. At the Springvale Road intersection, the terminus would be here, but there isn't a proper entrance to the shopping centre. It's just a car park and a car park and a more car park. I would propose turning right and building the tram termini on Snedden Drive, where there is a much more appealing entrance. This will make it more convenient and less frustrating for passengers. By the way, here's a fun fact. Minneapolis's light rail system has a line to Mall of America, and their station is built within a car park. Not sure if something like that could happen for Melbourne's tram system. On the 1923 map, there was a plan to build a line branching off from the Route 75 line. It would continue along Burwood Road, turn right onto Camberwell Road, and rejoin the existing tram line at Riversdale Road. This line might serve some shops and a nearby university, but one major benefit is operational flexibility. If there's a disruption, trams could be rerouted along the new line. As for Route 70 to Wattle Park, on the Yarra-Trams drawing, the line continues from Wattle Park to Forest Hill. The line would turn left onto Elgar Road, then turn right onto Canterbury Road, continue along until it reaches Forest Hill, terminating at Springvale Road. It would serve surrounding parks and provide a direct trip to Forest Hill Shopping Centre without the need to take a complicated bus route. There aren't many challenges, but one major challenge is building the track from the current Wattle Park terminus. The small road beside the terminus could be removed to make room for a second track and platform. The intersection would also need to be reconfigured to allow the tram tracks to pass through. On the same drawing, the Route 109 tram is extended to Ringwood. This means it would continue along Whitehorse Road, passing several shops, and terminate outside Eastland Shopping Centre. It could accommodate medium to short distance journeys, whilst the adjacent railway is more suited to longer journeys. Also, given that the Belgrave and Lilydale lines are major transit arteries in the eastern suburbs, this tram extension could serve as a direct alternative during disruptions. On the 1923 map, there's a tram line that continues along Barkers Road until it reaches Burke Road. It would serve few businesses, connect with the Route 16 and 27 trams, and provide easy access to this large educational complex that includes many different schools. At Kew, there's also a small branch line that travels along Princess Street, turns right onto Willsmere Road, and terminates at Kew North. In my previous video, I talked about the Route 16 tram terminating at Kew Junction with its own termini. This Kew North line could be incorporated into the Route 16 tram. Moving on to the northern suburbs, many individual tram lines were proposed in the 1923 map. For example, one line goes from Clifton Hill along Heidelberg Road, turns left onto Station Street, and terminates at Mansfield Street. Whilst it would serve the Fairfield town area and train station, it also subtly revives the old Fairfield Horse Tramway, a private tram built in 1884. A major challenge here is the level crossing. The train station would need to be rebuilt, and the railway will have to go underground, as the level crossing at Grange Road was removed by building a railway trench. Another line branches off along Darebin Road, continuing until it reaches Ivanhoe Station. This line would provide another direct link to Ivanhoe, and it would also serve the Narrandjerry Stadium. In my previous video, I discussed a proposal to extend Route 72 to Ivanhoe. Since these two proposal lines are quite close to each other, I suggest linking them together along Norman Street. One challenge is the level crossing in that area. As with Fairfield, the railway would need to go underneath and the train station would need to be rebuilt. Out of many tram lines I've discussed so far, most of which are just small branch lines, there is one that would truly improve travel across the northern suburbs. Introducing the Bell Street Tram. In the upper part of the 1923 map, there is a long horizontal line going across, representing a proposed tram line along Bell Street. It starts at Hilton Street in Pascoe Vale North, runs along West Street, Boundary Road and Cumberland Road, before finally turning left to begin its journey along Bell Street. It passes through Coburg, Preston, Belfield and terminates at Heidelberg. This tram line would serve multiple businesses and could reduce pressure on the long-distance commuters who aren't travelling into the city. It connects with Coburg Station, the Route 19 tram, the Route 11 tram, Bell Station, Route 86 and Heidelberg Station. Aside from the challenge of a steep gradient near the Coburg Pine Ridge Cemetery and a few sections without median strips, there aren't many major challenges. Since the level crossings at Coburg, Bell and Heidelberg have already been removed, construction would be quite easy. However, on the Anna Mattison map, this tram line continues further along Manningham Road, bypassing Bulleen, Doncaster and terminating outside Box Hill Shopping Centre at Station Street. A tram line of this scale would serve numerous shops, including Doncaster Shopping Centre, as well as several parks, and would significantly reduce reliance on complex indirect bus routes. There's also the proposed suburban rail loop, an orbital metro line around the outer suburbs, intended to reduce city congestion and improve suburban travel. There's been a lot of debate about this project, with speculation that it would be built by 2050. A tramline in Bell Street could be built in the short term, and if we are focused on moving people around the suburbs without cars, it is probably wise to implement such transport options as soon as possible. In the Brunswick area, there is also a proposed extension of the Route 6 tram to Essendon. It would continue along Moreland Road, passing under the Upfield line, crossing the Route 58 tram, take an S-turn on Pascoe Vale Road to Brewster Street, turn left onto Napier Street, and terminate at the roundabout. Aside from serving local shops, it would help connect with the other two tram lines. Construction would be relatively easy, especially since Moreland level crossing has already been removed. Speaking of Essendon, there is another proposal on both the 1923 map and the Yarra Trams drawing for a spur line along Buller Road to DFO near Essendon Fields Airport. This will make it much easier for people to access the shopping centre. There's also a proposed spur line to Essendon West. The line would turn left onto Buckley Street and continue until it reaches Essendon West. It would serve 2 schools and could also connect with Essendon Station. One challenge is the limited space in the underpass at Essendon Station, which currently has a 3-lane road. The tram tracks will need to be built on this road, meaning cars and trams would have to share the space. In my previous video, I talked about a tram extension from West Maribyrnong to Bentleigh East. I now think it makes sense to connect that line with the proposed Essendon West tram. Not only could it serve as an alternate route during disruptions, but it would also provide a direct connection between Keilor and Essendon Station. There are already several buses in the area, but what's the harm in showing you the tram extension? I talked a lot about the northern and southern suburbs. It's time to move on to our next area. Introducing the western suburbs, which include either Werribee, Wyndham Vale, Tarnate, Truganina or Caroline Springs. It is a massively outward sprawling low-density area and characterised by high temperatures, authentic mugging experiences, and is overall flatter than a potato cake. Most of the time, your only option for getting around is by car, as it's very car dependent. The adjacent freeway is a major transit artery into the city. Your only choices of public transit are indirect bus routes that take 20 to 45 minutes to arrive, the Werribee train with long distances between stations, or the V-Line train from Winter Vale or Melton with the metro trains not serving those lines. This puts the western suburbs at a significant disadvantage. So, what if we build a tram network there? That could significantly improve transport in the area. Many people have talked about this idea and mentioned it to me. I propose a long tram line that would traverse the western suburbs of Melbourne, designed to be fast and somewhat grade separated. Starting at the RAAF base in Port Cook, the line would go along Points Cook Road and into the suburb. It then splits at Snyders Road, continuing along Snyders Road and Broadwalk Boulevard via Dullings Road before rejoining. I'm doing this not to give trams better flexibility in case of disruption, but to also serve these shopping centres and these schools. The line goes over the Princess Freeway, makes 3 right turns onto Ashcroft Avenue, Overton Road and Alto Street to reach out to Williams Landing Station, providing a train connection. Although a direct route could be shorter, it goes through wetlands which may not support infrastructure as trams may sink into the pond. The line then turns left to follow alongside Palmer's Road, before splitting again. One branch follows Sayers Road and turns right onto Morris Road, while the other line continues on Palmer's Road and turns left onto Leeks Road. Both lines pass by shops, schools and the Winter Vale Shopping Centre, before rejoining and branch off the road towards Tarnate Station, connecting with the V-Line train. The line branches back and continues on Leeks Road again and splits once more. One line goes down Tarnate Road while the other continues on Leeks Road, turns left onto Davis Road, continues and then turns left onto Hogan's Road. Both rejoin, passing several schools and 2 shopping centres. The line then continues down south and turns left onto Hogan's Road, then right onto Derrimut Road, heading towards Werribee Shopping Centre. It passes underneath the Werribee line and makes a right turn onto Princess Highway. It goes along the road until it diverts onto Cherry Street and Watton Street, passing through Werribee Town Centre. It then makes a right turn onto Princess Highway again, passing under the Werribee line again until it continues east along Ballon Road, reaching Manor Lake Central Shopping Centre. It turns left onto Hirata Boulevard, heading towards Windsor Vale Station, providing another connection with the V-Line train. Finally, it turns south, making a right turn onto Manor Lakes Boulevard, then right onto Iceland Road, serving the Manor Lakes suburb. It turns left back onto Ballon Road, heading northwest and terminating at another suburb, Jubilee Estate Park. This long tram line would help connectivity between train stations and shopping districts. The tram line passes by 16 shopping districts, 9 education districts, several parks, and the RAAF base. So for any shopping trip or going to school, the tram might be a viable option. The RAAF base might be an odd location for a tram terminus, but even soldiers need some form of transport. There are a few major challenges as most roads are grade separated from rail. Seeing the wide roads, lawns, and several median strips, building tram tracks would be relatively easy. Trams can either run either in the middle or alongside roads. Near the Williams Landing, Tarnate and Winter Vale stations, tram lines can curve towards station entrances and tram stops can be built outside entrances. This can enable a quick transfer and minimising walking distance and enabling seamless transfer. The tram will also be the first thing you see as you get off the train. At one bridge in the Werribee line, there is a wide gap between tracks, possibly the site of a future train station that was never built. If such train station was built, it would have the advantage of providing a direct connection to the tram below. While light rail proposals for the western suburbs have existed for years, nothing much has come out of it. In 2018, the Rail Futures Institute released a master plan for expanding Melbourne's transit system. This included extending Melbourne's train, tram and bus network, but they introduced something called medium capacity transit, an umbrella term to describe rail systems with higher capacity than a bus system but is below heavy passenger rail. Such technologies include light rail transit, light metros or bus rapid transit, like the G-Link in Gold Coast, Paris Metro and Transmilenio. Several medium capacity transit line proposals already exist in the western suburbs, but let's focus on trams, as many extensions can come close to light rail transit, and tram can describe a wide range of rail systems that operate in urban streetscapes. Jagger hasn't made a video explaining the terminology of the word tram. There are, however, several internal challenges which include speed and distance. A common criticism of Melbourne's tram system is that they are quite slow, but that is because they share the road with heavy road traffic and they mingle with each other on a regular basis. Tram stops are built quite close to each other and there is not much signal or traffic priority for trams to go fast, with trams waiting at traffic lights. So if we make our trams go faster, it may be more competitive with road transport. How can we do this? Well, for example, in the Gold Coast and Sydney, they have built many light rail systems, especially in Parramatta. Most of the trams are grade separated, either being built in their own right of way, besides a road or a median strip. The trams do go on the street, but notice anything? Cars are not allowed to go on the tram tracks. Separating the cars from trams can allow for trams to go faster speeds, and they can run on time without having to sit in traffic. Let's see how this type of infrastructure can work in practice. Tram stops could be built some distance away from each other, preferably in areas with large land use. Sections of tram lines can be built beside the road with minimal traffic interference. On several intersections, track curves may be tight, but on some occasions, it might be possible to build a large curve. Many trams go slow around tight curves, but for large curves, the tram could go slightly faster. Let's be clear that if it does whiz through a large intersection, it could take about 10 to 15 seconds, allowing some traffic to flow freely. Slip turns will need to be removed, as they are just about as dangerous as cars could go too fast on them and may hit an unsuspecting pedestrian. Most sections of the road will need to be reconfigured, but that's the whole point of building tram extensions. This brings the overall length at 55 kilometres long, which is long by Melbourne standards, about as long as the Sydney Light Rail, Newcastle Tram and the G-Link combined. Or in the Melbourne context, the Route 75, Route 86 and Route 48 trams combined. But the overarching goal of this tram is to serve shopping and town complexes and connect up with the train stations. While many official tram extensions go on the roads and face infrastructure constraints, this is a chance for Melbourne to build a more modern light rail network that is therefore fast, accessible, grade separated, frequent and punctual. Moving slightly close to the city, several tram extensions were proposed for Williamstown on a 1923 map. In my previous video, I discussed extending a tram from Docklands to Footscray using either Docklands Highway or Dinham Road. For one tram extension, let's start at Footscray. One proposed line goes to Spotswood. It would continue along Hopkins Street, making two right turns onto Moreland Street and Napier Street, before turning left and continuing along Hyde Street. Passing under the Westgate Bridge, it turns right onto Simcock Avenue before doing an S-turn into Booker Street and Hudson's Road. Continuing west, it crosses the railway and terminates at Stevenson Street. This extension would serve many industrial areas, science works, two schools and the Spotswood Town Centre. It would also provide connections to Spotswood Station and make shorter trips easier instead of just using the train. Some challenges include building tram tracks on the road, particularly along Hudson's Road. I assume the 1923 map was drawn with the hopes of a town being built there, but it failed to anticipate suburban development consisting mostly of housing. Here's what the area looks like in 1945, with not much housing, and here it is in 2015. There still aren't many shops, and the road today is quite narrow, particularly too small for tram tracks. Another issue is the level crossing at Spotswood Station. There is a proposal to remove the level crossing. The next tram line continues from Footscray Station and goes south until it goes along Somerville Road. This section of the tram line was already built but was closed in 1961. The line would continue, making several left turns onto Geelong Road, Millers Road and Mason Street, passing over the railway and by several shops. It then makes a right turn onto Melbourne Road, goes over the railway again and continues along North Road before turning right into Douglas Parade. From there, it turns left onto Ferguson Street and makes three right turns onto Nelson Place, Cole Street and Osborne Street, crossing the Williamstown line. It then meanders through Gardiner Street before turning right and continuing along the Esplanade, terminating outside Williamstown Beach. This extension would connect with shops and provide an easy trip to Williamstown Beach. There aren't many major challenges except that the tram line goes through tight streets, so accessibility ramps would need to be built on the road at tram stops. Another tram line turns right from Douglas Parade and continues along Ferguson Street, terminating outside JT Grey Reserve. This will serve a couple of schools and connect with North Williamstown Station, which is now easier as the level crossing has already been removed. Regarding the terminus, here's what the area looked like in 1945. It was quite empty, and the idea was that if a tram line was built, a major town would be built there. Here it is in 2020. The area around the proposed terminus is a built-up industrial area, which I'm not sure if people would use the tram to go there. I would personally extend the line further along Corroy Creek Road, and then turn left onto Millers Road and continue south. It would then turn right onto Queen Street, pass through Altona, and continue until it reaches Laverton. From there, it will make a left turn, follow Point Cook Road, and terminate at Point Cook. This line would serve many shops and schools and developing areas in Altona, and it would connect with my light rail proposal for the western suburbs, allowing Melbourne's current tram fleet to operate on the line. Some challenges include the complexity of building tram tracks on streets and median strips. The line also crosses the railway twice. The level crossing at Corroy Creek Road has been removed, but the one at Seaholm hasn't. If that level crossing were removed, a railway duplication project would be needed, as the Altona loop is currently single track. There's also the issue of tram maintenance, as there is currently no tram maintenance facility in the western suburbs. However, given the availability of open land and the relatively flat terrain, building a tram depot would be quite feasible, as long as the site is easily accessible. In 2023, a project was approved to build a new tram depot in Maidstone. This is where Melbourne's new G-Class trams will be maintained, which will run on routes 57, 59 and 82 lines. As of 2025, the depot is already under construction and the tracks have been laid. This depot could anticipate future tram extensions in the western suburbs, allowing trams to access the nearby depot instead of taking a long and complicated route to the Essendon tram depot or the Preston workshops. Where was I again? In the 1923 map, there is one final tram extension proposed from Footscray to Sunshine. It follows Ballarat Road and then turns left onto Hampshire Road, terminating at Dixon Street near Sunshine Station. This would provide a connection with both the Metro and V-Line trains, serve the nearby Footscray Hospital, and allow many passengers who work in the area to take the tram along Sunshine for short trips. In 2019, the Western Melbourne Economic Development Alliance, or WMEDA, released a document titled Sunshine, Daring to be Great. Combined by former Victorian Premier Steve Bracks, it aims to propose upgrades to the Sunshine urban area. One of the ideas included a new tram or light rail network, radiating out of Sunshine to Footscray, Deer Park, Altona, Newport and Moonee Ponds. Three of these proposals closely resemble the tram routes shown in the 1923 map. The Rail Futures Institute also has a similar proposal for medium capacity transit lines in the area. Let's start with the first tram line to Altona, which would pass through the Western Industrial Precinct. Continuing from the previous tram line, it would go over the Hampshire Street Bridge over the train tracks, then head south. It would make a left turn onto Wright Street, a right onto Market Road, and eventually a left onto Somerville Road, joining up with the other tram line to Williamstown, continuing on to Newport and the proposed line to Altona. One challenge of this route is the level crossing at Somerville Road, known as the Highfield Quarry sidings. Judging by the area around the crossing, the railway seems unused and doesn't see much railway traffic, so it likely wouldn't be an issue to build a tram crossing over this underutilised railway siding. The next tram line continues along Ballarat Road, turns right onto Anderson Road, and then left onto Furlong Road. It passes through Sunshine North and crosses the Albion-Chicana Railway. The line continues west, serving Sunshine Hospital and Ginnifer Station before heading toward Kernley. It then turns left onto Station Road and travels towards Deer Park Station. This extension would connect with both V-Line and Metro trains while serving Sunshine Hospital. There aren't many challenges, as most of the train crossings along the route have already been grade separated. However, when it comes to the Sunshine tram proposals, here's what I would do with the extensions. I would extend the Deer Park tram further to Derrimut to provide transport for the local residents and give them flexible options for both short or long trips. I would also propose several more tram lines in the western area. For example, one line could branch off from Furlong Road, turn left onto Neil Road, and then continue via a light rail bridge over Corroy Creek through the park, eventually rejoining along Rockbank Middle Road. It would then turn right onto Westward Drive, continue south, and make a left onto Commercial Road, passing Caroline Springs Square. From there, it would make two right turns onto Caroline Springs Boulevard and onto Taylors Road, before turning left onto Calder Park Drive. Finally, it will make two more right turns, crossing the Calder Highway and Railway line and terminate at the car park outside Watergardens Shopping Centre. This tramline would serve 5 shopping districts, several schools, and provide a convenient transport option for residents of the Brimbank area. Though the line is quite ziggity-zaggy, it might work well for local trips, even if it's less ideal for commuting into the city. There wouldn't be many major challenges, as much of the track could be built on existing median strips, and there is a large patch of grass next to some roads. Another tramline I would build would continue south along Caroline Springs Boulevard, passing some shops and a primary school, and then terminate outside Caroline Springs Station. Since the station is built in a nothing place, this could help serve the broader Caroline Springs suburb and provide a connection to the Vale train. Currently, only one local bus service runs from the station to Water Gardens, which somewhat follows my proposed route alignment and comes every 30 minutes or an hour. A tramline would make commuting from Caroline Springs Station less depressing. A tram coming every 15 to 10 minutes would be a noticeable improvement from the low-frequency bus. So, that is pretty much all the tram extensions in Melbourne that I could cover in this video, including all the extensions shown on the 1923 map. Putting all these tram extensions together would greatly enhance Melburnians' access to public transport. One small note, the Adam Madison map proposed a tram extension from St Kilda to Brighton Beach. This was actually the historic Victorian Railways tram, which was separate from Melbourne's tram network and ran on 1,600mm broad gauge instead of the standard gauge. It closed in 1959, so this wouldn't really count as an extension, but more of a reopening of an old line. Many people have dreamt of expanding the tram network for years, and many have created their own tram extensions for Melbourne, otherwise known as fantasy maps. In 2019, I created my own fantasy map of Melbourne's tram network, featuring many long-proposed extensions and new route numbers. The map matches the style of the current PTV map, though it isn't geographically accurate. But let's get to the cost. According to a 2014 document from the Greens detailing tram extensions in Melbourne, building 1 kilometre of double tram track costs approximately 50 million Australian dollars in 2014, adjusted to 19 million Australian dollars in 2025. Doing my own math, I added all my tram extensions from the previous video, and the ones we covered today are a staggering 423 kilometres altogether, and building such tram lines would cost about $8.3 billion. However, due to additional factors like land acquisition, planning, and inflation, it might cost $29.6 billion. In my previous video, I mentioned the Westgate Tunnel project, a 4-kilometre freeway tunnel built as an alternative to Westgate Bridge, aiming to solve congestion, but is likely to make traffic jams worse. It had a cost blowout of $10 billion in 2021 due to contaminated soil. Now, there's another major freeway project underway in the northeastern suburbs. Referred to as the North East Link, it is a massive freeway/road tunnel project going from Bundoora to Heidelberg to Bulleen, aiming to connect the Western Ring Road to the Eastern Freeway. It has faced heavy scrutiny because it has demolished large areas of forest, homes, and several town areas, except for this gardening establishment. It has suffered major cost blowouts and is now the most expensive freeway project in the state. Before construction began, local councils and the Patua opposed the project when they found a government report that it would remove 25,000 passengers from public transport and into cars. This freeway might have seemed like a smart idea, but since the 2020s, we've become more aware that cars are the most polluting and least space-efficient mode of transport. So putting 25,000 people into cars is guaranteed to cause traffic jams. As of 2025, this freeway project is said to cost about $27.1 billion. Every time I pass through Greensboro, I see areas completely destroyed, and I counted like 20 to 30 cranes. I would assume you don't need that many cranes for a tram project, but it seems like for this freeway, a lot of resources are being used. So when you compare the freeway projects to tram extensions, it makes you think, what would be a better way to spend all that money? Would you spend it on this? Or would you spend it on this? I just hope that one day governments will realise the benefits of public transport, understand that car use contributes to climate change, and accept that freeway projects aren't always the answer. Building trams and improving public transit is a step forward in urban planning. Melbourne's tram system might not be expanding physically, but conversations and videos online indicate that there is significant community interest in this area. If I could give you one piece of advice, I would write to your local MP about expanding Melbourne's tram system, or look closely at your political candidates and see if they have serious proposals for improving public transport. Unfortunately, such proposals are often overlooked or forgotten. It may not seem like much, but even a small improvement in public transport can have a big impact on shaping the future. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I would like to hear feedback on my more tram extensions. This has been quite a wild ride on making tram videos, but I consider it time well spent. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!